and once you identify, you need to come up with a solution. So let's move on to this next question. Y'all doing a really great job. I'm proud of y'all. So, are you in control of your mental health?
Ooh, what a question.
Yeah, I get a little woke sometimes.
Not always. Not always. It's like I said, I think it was a little bit prior to the pandemic, I found myself, like I gained a lot of weight. I think in my heaviest, I was like 395. But right. But I look at myself in the mirror every day, so I don't really notice changes.
Yeah.
I notice that I need a haircut. It's Friday, I got to get out. I notice those surface level things, but you don't notice how that impacts your drive in certain at work.
Yeah.
Especially in the work that I do, it's driven off of passion and a sincere care, for people. And when you feel that not present, you don't realize it until, somebody pull you to the side, like, hey, it's been about, 2 months. What's going on?
You gonna cut your hair, bro?
Right. You gonna cut your hair? The suit is a little tight today.
Yeah.
And those are things you don't realize until it happens. So I would like to say that I'm 100% in control of my mental health, but we're not. Which is why we're having that conversation, so we can develop strategies together.
Mm-hmm. We're all about solutions here.
Exactly.
So it's open mic for anybody.
I say, man, you are, but then sometimes you can lose it. It's like basketball. You had a basketball, you dribbling it 1 minute, and then what happened? You lost it. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it just be like that. Sometimes it just happens like that. Sometimes you lose it, You might kick it off your foot. So we can control it. I think the main thing we can control is how we respond to everything. I think if we're more aware of what we can control, then I think we put more focus on that. I think what a lot of us get caught up in is trying to control the situation. Like every part of it is, you can't control every part of it. All you can control is how you respond to what's happening. You know what I mean? So I think if we focus more on that, that's a solution, by the way. I just threw that in there on the back end. But yeah.
What about you, ladies?
I was diagnosed with a chemical imbalance and depression and anxiety, so I had to be put on medication. And I've been on medication since I was 29. I'm 58 now. I was put on a real good medication to where it wouldn't let me cry, wouldn't let me get depressed, and I'm like, something ain't right. You gotta cry sometime, but it had me able to function in life. And I'm gonna say about 3 months ago, after 14 years, it stopped working. It just stopped working. And I'm like, what's going on? Why is this medicine not working? But not realizing too, I had a death. My sister passed away. So I thought I was okay. I mean, I know I was sad or whatever, but I thought I was okay. But when it stopped working, I did lose control. I started stuttering real bad, having real bad anxiety. I mean, stuttering when I talked, I was just, my anxiety was out of control. So I had to, get that in check. I had to. So sometimes you are in control of it, but we're human. So sometimes we are gonna go, left field or go off.
Yeah, and to add to that, everybody's trauma is different also. So your trauma doesn't look like mine, yours doesn't look like mine. Y'all's don't look the same. And everybody handles it differently. I have brothers, we grew up in the same household, but we all have different paths.
Right.
I have a brother who went to Ivy League, I have a brother in prison. And it's me in the middle. So, so be nice, what do you think?
I would say that it depends, yeah, we do have control of our mental health. If you are looking at it from an intrinsic perspective, like, Drew was stating. But I think that depending on like what the trauma was, like you were saying that it's subjective, depending on what the trauma was, and more so, I would say how long you were in that trauma, that has an impact on really whether or not you are in control of the mental health. So I'll use myself for an example, so expound upon that. For me, like I stated, I was married. So I was, I'm originally from Oklahoma City, and I'm married and I'm in DC. So I pretty much don't have like anyone up there or whatever, like that was just my ex's, family. So I'm not around like my family. I'm going through, this discrimination, within like the workplace as well. And then, it was the trauma or the domestic violence was physical, but it was emotional, it was financial, it was spiritual, just like all of that, And so I had ended up putting myself into counseling because initially I thought that it was just, the workplace, issues. And then I realized like, oh, some of the shit that I got going on, like at, at home. I was, brought up like in church, so I was kind of sort of suppressing it through like prayer, so to speak, and not really. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna pray through this or whatever and stuff like that. And it wasn't, even though I had put myself into the counseling, honestly, it wasn't until like I had left physically. It wasn't until I had physically left the relationship, as well as that work environment that I was formerly in, that my body started having like a lot of panic attacks. And so at that particular time, I did not have control over that, but I think that it was more so because my body was stuck due to the fact that I was in that marriage for like, 5 years, and the relationship was like 7, as well as the same time of the job that I was at. Your body is stuck in this fight or flight situation. And so I didn't fight and I didn't run either, you know what I'm saying? And so being stuck in there, you have like all these toxins that's just being poured into you. And so then when you finally escape, a lot of people look at like the panic attacks as negative, but I ended up like embracing them because I realized that it was my body releasing those particular like toxins, even though I was like, you could be like triggered by things as well. So,
when you say accepting them, do you mean like just facing it head on?
Yeah, like not. So I used to get upset when I used to get the panic attacks. Like, man, why the fuck this shit like keep on like hell? Like for real. Like I'm sorry, y'all, but like I was like so pissed off like that I kept on having. I was like, I left. Like, why am I having these particular like things, right? But it would be like around certain times, like anniversaries, like around the anniversary when he almost choked my ass to death or whatever, the anniversary of like or like weddings. I had to like avoid weddings at one point in time. Like I cried. Because I couldn't go to
I'm sorry,
Drew's
Vanessa.
wedding.
Let's pause. I have to restart the camera because it stopped.
Oh, okay.
It just stopped though.
Okay.
Yeah. We ain't got the fancy cameras yet.
Okay. So yeah, I was saying like I had to really start paying attention to the things that like triggered me. I had to start avoiding weddings like at one point in time as well because I would start getting like emotional and crying and like having those particular panic attacks. So I think sometimes we're in control and sometimes we're not. But most importantly, that I think it depends on how long you're really embedded in that traumatic situation.
Okay, that's amazing. So I like to add my 2 cents. It definitely, I feel like we do have some control over our mental health, but at the same time, I do understand some things you can't even recognize to have control. But speaking on my personal experience, I have complete control over my mental health right now. I wouldn't say that 5 or 10 years ago though.
Right on.
So I can say right now, I don't get bothered by much. Like no one can call me a word and make me upset. I'm just like, okay, I'm a bitch. What is, okay, it's just a word to me. Like things that my parents may have made mistakes on, I forgave them for everything. And I think that's the biggest thing that everyone needs to do. I think forgiveness. Anybody who has caused harm or trauma to you, or I don't care how bad the trauma was, like I feel like we all should forgive them. But that's just my 2 cents. I'm a believer in the Lord though, so. So one of my next questions is, does mental health excuse poor behavior?
Sandwich with the wrong side of the bread. Thought I made it by a landslide, but instead I'm still hungover. Sometimes I make the wrong phone call after dark. Sometimes I make the wrong turn, then I have to pause. I know exactly how this ends, but I